All right, we've got a huge group of you here today. So thrilled to have you. Let's dive right in. Today, we have opened the door to a brand new Brave Writer product. And here's the thing, I'm super excited about it. 22 years ago, in January of 2000, I released The Writer's Jungle. I'm just going to grab it to show you. It looked like this. And this book was what I shared at all the conferences. We sold it in a binder like this for years. And it has outlived its usefulness. I mean, it's still useful. The content is great. But what we've discovered over 22 years is that the structure of that content is no longer as comfortable for today's homeschooler as it was back in 1999 and 2000 when I first designed it. Not only that, Brave Writer has been around for 22 years, and we've learned a few things about writing. So everything that I believed to be true back in 99 is actually still true. But what we've discovered is there are even more effective ways to deliver those strategies to you. Not only that, we have completely redesigned and reorganized that content and rewritten it in large part to make it easier to use. Here's a couple things I know about all of you. One, you want a manual that still gives you the instruction, confidence, and cheerleading you need to do the job. But two, you want really clearly designed activities so that you know exactly what to do when. And then three, you want a way to assess whether or not your kids have actually met the target goals of that exercise. And then you kind of want to understand, like, how does this all fit together to create a writer? So the team and I redesigned everything. And I rewrote, I've been writing like a fiend for months. And we rewrote everything. We gathered research from our online classes. We gathered research from the feedback we've gotten from all of you who've been using our program. And I think you're going to love it. In fact, I know you are. It's so beautiful. The design, the layout, completely practical, streamlines all the information, doesn't make you go on too many wandering journeys through all of my past anecdotes, but also still has the Julie flavor. We did not just turn it into a textbook. So here we go. I'm going to be sharing my screen. I'm assuming that will work also on Facebook. The shared screen is going to be a Google slideshow. So get ready, and we're going to get started right now. Okay, let's see here. Make sure that I've got it open to the right screen. Okay, now I can do it. Here we go. You guys are making me work hard today, and I'm excited to do it. All right, here we go. Can everybody see? I'm assuming that you can. All you have to do is move me around, drag your cursor and move me around so that I stay out of the language on the slide. So welcome to the secret to breakthroughs in writing. This is a sneak peek of Growing Brave Writers combined with my all-time most popular talk that I've given for the last 22 years. I've shortened it a little, but we're going to get to the point so that you really understand why Brave Writer is unlike any other writing program on the market, whether for homeschool or even traditional school. That's how deeply I believe in the values and strategies that we've evolved over the last 22 years. So welcome. I hope you've got a cup of tea. Maybe you have a nice iced tea and it's not winter here or where you are, but if you're in Australia, it is. So go ahead and snuggle up to the fire. If you're in the United States, maybe get a glass of lemonade. So I want to ask you in the chat, how many writing manuals do you already have? How many? Just put a number in the chat. Okay, I see 2, 0, 5, too many, 7, 3, none, a million, tons, too many to count. Oh my goodness, I completely understand that. Here's the thing. The first time I asked this question, I was at a conference in Ohio, and I started having people raise their hands as the number applied to them, 1, 2, 3, and they would lower their hand when it stopped applying. And I finally got to someone who had 13 writing manuals. And the first thing I said to her was, what are you doing here? Like, why are you even here if you have 13 writing manuals? What I have discovered over all these decades of working with parents is that we keep seeking a once and for all solution. And anytime we hit a roadblock, we think, well, the next manual is going to have the answer that we need. But here's what I've learned from hanging out with all of you. It's not so much that you lack writing assignments. What you lack is a manual that teaches you how to teach writing. In other words, there's a pretty big difference, isn't there, between telling you to have your child write a descriptive paragraph and a completely different strategy for how to get the pencil moving, how to generate the language that would go into that descriptive paragraph. Most writing manuals focus on what to write, these very clear directions, criteria for evaluation. They tell you what age your child should be to do this particular format. But unfortunately, they give you very little help in the actual generation of writing. They don't help you with writer's block, or a child who struggles to express himself, or a child who isn't good at spelling yet. How do you capture in writing the lucid, strong vocabulary of a 7-year-old who still can't read fluently? Does that mean that 7-year-old shouldn't get to write? What about your 13-year-old who can get the words written correctly, but is so log jammed in their imagination? The way they think, how they express themselves so outstrips their ability to punctuate that when they go to write, they dumb down and simplify the content so they don't have to risk getting mistakes made because of their poor punctuation or their poor grammar. We in Brave Writer don't want you to struggle with shaming your child into writing, telling them, okay, here's the assignment, now do it. And then I'm going to correct all your mistakes. Because what we've discovered is that's a very fast track to writer's block. You know, that thing where your kids have a blank page, blank stare syndrome. This is my son, Liam. How many of you hand your child a blank page and get back a blank stare? What happens is your child may have just been telling you all about the movie they loved, the movie you want them to write a review for, and you think, oh, good, listen to all the things that he has to say about that movie. And then you hand the blank page to your son, and he looks up at you and says, the classic, I can't think of anything to say. How many of you have thought that? You've thought to yourselves, my goodness, I want my child to write. He's given me all these words, but when I hand him the page or tell him to type it, nothing comes out. How many of you have that going on with any of your children? It doesn't matter, boys, girls, they, them, whoever. Kids get roadblocked so frequently because the pace of their speech development so far outstrips their reading and writing ability. Think of it this way. During the first 5 years of your child's life, when they were learning to talk, they made all kinds of mistakes. Remember when your child said their first word? Here's the first word my oldest son said. He was sitting in a high chair behind me. I was at the kitchen sink. And he said, here, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment just so you can see me and be able to, oops, wait. Oh dear, wait a minute. I'm out, but I'm not out. There we go. Yeah, I want to talk to you for a minute. So imagine my son sitting behind me in a high chair. He's 11 months old, and he says the word Nana. Now, knowing that I am a writer and someday will hopefully teach writing, I wanted to ensure that he spoke properly from a young age. So right after he said the word Nana, I said, oh, Noah, that's a beautiful part of a word, but the full word is banana. And it goes in a sentence like this. I would like a banana. In fact, banana is a noun. So when you say it, you want the complete word. And because it is a request, you need to use the oral format called etiquette. So here's what I need you to say. Mama, I would like a banana, please. Now, how many of you spoke to your kids that way when they were learning to speak? Anyone? Okay, neither did I. In fact, what I said to my child immediately was, oh my gosh, you're brilliant. You said Nana. I'm going to put this in the baby book I'm going to make an international call to my mother. I'm going to call your father down the stairs and we're going to feed you 6 more bananas. Isn't that what you did? And a few months later, when my son said, "Me want Nana," I was equally thrilled because now he had 3 words together and he communicated a want and we understood him. In fact, my husband and I called bananas nanas for the next several years. We weren't worried at all that we were using the wrong word. We thought it was adorable. And we figured eventually he'd retire that word once he had heard banana enough from other people. Here's the interesting thing. By the time he was 5 years old, shouting at me from the other room, "Hey, Mom, get me a banana." That was when I enforced the oral format of etiquette. That's when I would say, "Hey, what do you say?" And he'd say back to me, "Please." Because now that he was fluent in English, didn't have to think about how to use his tongue, how many syllables were in a word, whether he got the word order right. Once that was automatic, he could add a format to speech and it wasn't challenging. I bet you know where I'm going. Writing is similar, but our brains are hardwired for speech. They are not hardwired for reading and writing. That's a learned skill. So when they are speaking, they are benefiting from brain circuitry that is wired to mimic and learn speaking. What we've discovered about writing is that you can use a very similar strategy. It's just it takes twice as long. So whereas your kids are fluent in English by the time they're 5 years old, it will take them another 10 years between the ages of about 7 or 8 and 17 or 18 to become fluent readers and writers. 10 years. What does that tell you about a 12-year-old? Are they ready to spell accurately at age 12? Or are they only halfway through the journey to accurate spelling? In fact, think about how delighted you were by a misspoken word. How many of you are putting misspellings in the baby book? Are you? Are you writing BECUZ and then writing the date because it's so adorable and you know someday they will spell because the way the rest of us do? But we don't, because we have embodied and taken into ourselves a standard of proofreading, copy editing that doesn't apply to a new writer. It would be like if we used the sort of template of television or the news or radio as our way to evaluate whether our young speakers were speaking well enough. So let's go back now to our slides and keep going. These are the typical feelings and thoughts that parents and kids associate with the teaching of writing. And I want you to share in the chat which of these are true for you as the parent and which are true of you, your child. I see a bunch of hands raised, but I'm assuming that there are no issues. So I'm gonna look at chat. Okay, it looks good. Good. So how many of you are anxious or frustrated? Exactly. Maybe you think teaching writing is too difficult because you lack confidence or you're not good at it. So how can you teach your own kids? Maybe you don't like the idea that writing is subjective. Yeah. And then what about your kids? Don't they say stuff like, "My hand hurts. This is boring. It's too much work." They're afraid to fail. A lot of kids feel controlled. The parent is giving them all these directions and the child doesn't have the freedom to express themselves and they're worried about failing you. Maybe they think there are too many rules or they just hate revision. They don't mind writing, but they wish they didn't have to revise all the time. Yeah, you've got it. They get sad and angry. Revising is a huge issue, huge. And the problem is you feel responsible to train them to know how to write so that they can be successful. So it's like opposing forces. Your child might want to volunteer their great thoughts, but they're really worried about being critiqued. And you're reading those great thoughts and thinking, no one will take these seriously if he doesn't know how to spell correctly. How many of you feel that way? Anyone? This is the most common problem that we have when we're talking about teaching writing. We are focused so completely on performance, we forget that there is a process of learning that we can nurture with as much love and delight as we taught our children to speak. So who are all these reluctant writers? And you guys just named a slew of them, right? Well, they're your kids, but they were also mine. I'm a writing instructor, a good writer, a home educator, a mother who believed in nurturing her kids. And I still ran into roadblocks. I remember with Noah discovering that he was so blocked because his vocabulary was so good. How many of you have that experience? Kids who are really great at speaking, but they can't spell those words. So they might say something like, the sunset was magenta when they're talking to you. But when they go to write it, they write, the sunset was red. And you're like, I've lost that great word. Well, they're being clever. They're like, I don't want to make a mistake. So I'm going to short circuit the meaningful word that I would have used in order to spell it accurately. And then we lose the beauty of those thoughts. Isn't that so frustrating? So how do we bridge this gap? How do we help our kids find another way to learn to write without so much at stake? There are two strategies in the world of writing, two ways to teach it. There's the way that an educator or teacher teaches it, and then there's the way that professional writers teach people who want to get paid. I've had a foot in both worlds. As a home educator and someone with an interest in teaching children, I've studied all kinds of programs for how educators teach writing. But my mother is a professional author. She's written 75 books. I grew up around professional writing, and we approach writing as professionals in a completely different way than they do in schools. Educators start with a finished product, and then they deconstruct it for everything that makes it work. Oh, it's got good adjectives. It's got 4 sentences. It has this structure. It opens this way. It closes this way. I should design a writing assignment that tells students, open with this kind of sentence, include these details, make sure you close with this kind, add an adverb or an adjective. In other words, it's like paint by the numbers writing. They think they're helping by giving all the criteria that goes with a paragraph. But that's not how professionals teach writing. When they hang out with adults who want to get paid, this is what they say. Hey, what have you got to say? What is it that you have to communicate that would be interesting to any reader? Because the truth is, there are copy editors, there are people you can pay to type on your behalf. What you can't do is generate ideas that belong to someone else. The only ideas you have are your own, and those deserve to be preserved in writing, whether or not you can spell, whether or not you have hands that work. Educators treat writing like a frog, something to be dissected in a classroom. Whereas professionals treat writing the way a child sees a frog. And children see frogs as something mysterious and jumpy to play with. In other words, writing is less about formula and more about the mystery of playing with language, becoming connected to having something to say. So why is it so difficult to teach writing to our kids? Because we expect professional copy edited text. Today, you read widely, and we're talking wide, right? You're reading online, you're reading books, you're reading copy on your phones from texts, you're reading social media, and everyone prides themselves on being able to edit everybody else. It is the most annoying thing. You make this fabulous point on a Facebook thread, and then someone comes along and says, you used the word H-E-A-R when you meant H-E-R-E. And they act as though the point you made is less clear just because you had a brain moment where you forgot to spell the word correctly, right? How often does that happen? It happens constantly. But here's the sad truth. You bring that same grammar patrol personality to your homeschool because you've been trained to believe that accurately punctuated prose means you are well educated. But let me tell you something that maybe you don't know. Even professional writers are copy edited by professional editors. My books, which you can see kind of behind me in this screen, were edited 4 and 5 times. In the second printing of my most recent book, we made about 15 changes. This is after 4 or 5 professional edits, and then edits I made after listening and reading, not listening, excuse me, reading and recording the audiobook. That's how many times I have looked at my own text and had outsiders look at my own text, and we still found problems. I'm sharing this with you because we way overvalue the mechanics in writing. I have a friend who is a PhD, has his doctorate, and he was dyslexic. And when it was time for him to write his dissertation, he just threw in the towel. He went and he hired someone where he dictated. This is before we had dictation software because it was before computers. He dictated his entire dissertation on cassette tape and submitted it to a transcriptionist who typed it for him. The question I have for you is, who deserved the PhD? The person with the ideas or the person with the accurate transcription skills? How about Stephen Hawking? We know for a fact that he did not type his own books. Who gets the credit on the cover of his books? Stephen Hawking, for his ideas. The truth of the matter is this: all of us cannot see our own errors. Our goal is not 100% accuracy in writing. It is taking full responsibility for the end product. It is becoming competent enough to know that you need outside readers to be able to recognize even your own errors when you make them, or to have questions about those errors. And that's what we train you to do in Brave Writer. Here's what we typically notice first when we're looking at a piece of writing from one of our kids. We miss the beauty of what they're saying because we're distracted by inaccurate spelling, missing punctuation, poor grammar, weak phrasing, simplistic sentences, paltry detail, and messy handwriting. How many of you can't even hear the beautiful prose because you're so embarrassed by the handwriting? Or you think to yourself, wow, this child doesn't have very good grammar, and you're not even able to be captivated by the beauty of what they say. Even though back when they were learning how to speak, you were totally capable of being delighted by your child. School has pressured us into thinking that our children are deficient if the moment they can read, they aren't flawless in their writing execution. How many of you know that's true? How many times have you felt that to be true? How many of you are afraid to post on social media because you're afraid you won't have a chance to edit before people read it and you'll catch this mistake you made later? It's so wrong. It robs us of the rich conversations we could be having. By the way, back when Shakespeare was writing, there were no standardized spellings. His name is spelled, I think, 13 different ways over his lifespan. By not having standardized spelling, we had perhaps the greatest renaissance of language growth in the history of the English language. One of the dangers of all this rigidity is it really tamps down creativity. So as you are raising children, I invite you to be delighted by the explorations of spellings and brand new words and sort of adjacent grammar usages that you've never considered before. Because what we're tapping into is the evolving self, not the one that is just trying to live up to your standards. Here are the things that you could be noticing: the good stuff, flashes of insight, clever words. I remember Katrin fell in love with the word cornucopia when she was about 6 or 7. She used it constantly. And I just kept jotting it down in all the things she told me. And then we would read it back and she would feel so proud of using this really big word in a metaphorical way. It was adorable. She could not possibly have been able to spell cornucopia at 7 or 8 years old. And yet it shows up in her writing from that time because I could put it on paper for her. Notice the surprising detail. Sometimes your kids will give you sort of that teeny tiny detail about how to beat a level in, StarCraft or something. And there you are, sort of going bleary-eyed because it's so detailed. Be proud of that. Imagine how much work it takes to go through step by step by step. Mastery of the material. Your child is able to inform you about something that you don't know as much about. Perhaps there's just this beautiful fluidity of thought. Your child gets into sort of a daydream state and suddenly all the prose are just flowing. What about writer's voice? Writer's voice means that the writing sounds like your child, not like some adult they're imitating in the workbook or in the program. One of my pet peeves with a lot of writing programs is the way that there is a forced sophistication. Guess what? Your kids will be adults soon enough, but they will never be writers at age 5, 12, and 16 again. Let it rip. Let the personality of your child shine through, because the more they're in touch with their own writing voice, the more authentic their writing will be for the rest of their lives. And finally, even personal experiences that relate to the information. I had a student who was comparing a trebuchet to a four-wheeler and the atom bomb, just reaching for whatever was current in his own life to make the past meaningful. These are things you could notice regardless of grammar, spelling, and punctuation, couldn't you? So here's the truth. Your kids are fascinating people. Here's how I know that that's true. You have chosen to spend a lot of your life with them. Homeschoolers, 24 hours a day, no breaks on holidays. And for parents with kids in school, my goodness, you're putting in the hours after you're tired from work, doing homework, spending the weekends trying to get them up to their speed. You love your kids. That's why you had them. That's why you're so happy to help them. And this is the thing. They crack you up and amaze you on the regular. All of that delight, all that amazement, all the stuff that you think is so cool about them could be captured in writing. Better than a photography session, better than photographs. My daughter-in-law, she's getting these like age and stage photographs of my grandchildren, her children. And I just keep thinking how glad I am that I don't only have pictures. We've written things down that my kids have said and that they've written for themselves, and I've saved it all. And we just get the hugest kick out of the way they've expressed themselves over the years. Think of writing as a written record of the stage of development of your child that lets us see their interiors during that developmental stage. That's what writing ought to be. Parents can give their kids two things: faith and freedom. First, the faith to believe that our kids are writers already. If you can externalize language, you can be a writer. I used to half joke, and I mean, it was a joke. It's a little bit of a gory joke, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. I used to say, even if we cut off your child's hands and gouged out their eyes, they could still be writers. Because if you can get words out of your body, anyone can type them for you. Anyone can transcribe for you. What your child has on offer is an interior life. Thoughts, facts, ideas, poetry, fantasies, imagination, sentimentality, all of the things that make up who they are live inside them, just waiting to be captured in writing. But here's the thing they need in order to externalize all that language: freedom to take writing risks. And those writing risks evolve over time. So at the beginning, the writing risk looks like this. It looks like talking while you jot down their words. As they get a little older, it looks like them attempting to write them down, even if they don't know how to spell anything and haven't even mastered the alphabet yet. A little later, it looks like they are free writing. They're just taking a chunk of time, giving full attention to the ticker tape that's going on in their brains, and getting it to the page any way they can. As they get a little older, it looks like free writing combined with some revision strategies, so they start to get comfortable with what it feels like to rearrange some words on a second pass. A little later, it looks like revising with the intent to improve the communication. A little later, it looks like applying what they know of the mechanics to editing. Do you see how this journey evolves over time? It's not something that happens on one writing project from soup to nuts. We are growing skills over a series of years and papers. They are not all happening simultaneously in every paper. That's one of the big mistakes other programs make, frankly. Our kids need a safe space to put all of these interesting thoughts. Here's what one of our moms said. Thank you for reminding me that kids need a safe place to put those thoughts and ideas. Writing is sort of like undressing my mind. Sometimes it makes me feel downright naked, and it's so crushing to have my poor bare self ogled and poked and critiqued and trivialized instead of listened to. Kids aren't any different from adults in this, are they? What we put them through in the name of teaching is so disrespectful of them as persons. I'm convicted. My daughter has even told me that it hurts her feelings when I point out everything wrong with her writing. How many of you, maybe you can mention in the chat, have had children tell you that their feelings are hurt when you start pointing out spelling errors, or you didn't notice the beautiful sentence they wrote that was a compliment to you, but all you could see was the missing punctuation? I remember so distinctly hearing from a mom whose mother-in-law used to send back birthday cards with red pen corrections to her daughter. Can you imagine? The daughter takes the time to write a birthday card, mails it to her grandmother, and her grandmother corrected it with a red pen and mailed it back. Awful. So here's a little side tip for you. Never let any other adult see your child's writing in raw form. If you want your child to grow and have a safe space to write, the only person who ever sees their writing errors lives in your house. You do not send them off unless you know you have a safe person like my mother who would be purely delighted. But you do not post it on Instagram. You do not share it with grandparents. You do not show it to the other homeschoolers. You allow your children the space to make the mistakes they need in order to grow. And you value and love and appreciate the risk they took to reveal their interiors to you when they don't have 100% fluency in those skills yet. Isn't that incredible to think that your child would take the risk to say, hey, mom, hey, dad, here's who I am. Write it down. Please, 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 please be gentle. And then you come back and you say, oh my goodness, honey, I had no idea you knew this much about Minecraft. I'm blown away. I want to see that world you built. Can you show me that world? Meanwhile, your brain is filing away. Wow, still doesn't really know about capital letters. We're going to tackle that later, separately from this gorgeous piece of writing he just gave me. So here's the great divide. What should we prioritize when we're teaching writing? Accuracy or power? I bet you can tell where I'm going. If you're paying attention, you know. Yeah, I prioritize power. I would much rather read something interesting than something accurately spelled and punctuated. One of the big jokes that I love to tell from my professional writing life, there was this one speaker that I listened to who was an author, and people were saying as they were learning how to get published, I'm nervous about my, punctuation. I'm nervous that I will show that I'm not very good at writing. And so if I submit this book proposal and it's got typographical errors or it's got a misplaced comma, will that disqualify me? And this novelist made the most amazing statement. She said, whenever I submit a manuscript, and this is before the internet, so like picture a stack of pages. Whenever I submit a stack of pages for my manuscript, On top of it, I place a page that only has commas, and then I put a Post-it note on it for the editor that says, distribute at will. Because guess what? Power in writing, sure, it might include commas, but when was the last time you read a book and you said to your friend, you should read this book? My goodness, masterful placement of commas. You didn't, because the commas become invisible. What you're interested in is the message, the communication power of the writing. So I'd like to introduce you to something I call the writing triangle. This is a little model to help you understand how the skills of writing integrate with each other. The cornerstone, of course, I have it on the right-hand side, but at the base of the writing triangle is something we call original thought. Those are the ideas in your head, the words you want to convey, the original experiences and insights and accumulated facts and knowledge that you want to communicate to other people. Those live inside your body and they express themselves as thoughts in your head. But for writing to take place, we have to add mechanics. That means spelling, handwriting, grammar, punctuation, and format. And we learn about those things through literature, through the act of reading. We learn what a comma is. Did you know comma is just a curve? There are lots of curves in punctuation. There are quotation marks, apostrophes, commas. They all look very similar. But we have mastered the art of knowing that when it's down on a line, it means one thing. When it's doubled up and up high, it means another. When it's between two letters, it means something else. The mechanics of writing are like learning another language from scratch. It's actually, to be fair, multiple languages. We've got lowercase and uppercase letters, we've got punctuation, and we've got page formatting, like indentation, and what a paragraph looks like and feels like, not just what it is. When we are learning to write, as I said before, the mechanics lag behind your speaking fluency by about 5 years. So in the beginning of the writing life, they are as far apart as they can be. There is no coordination. You're talking, you cannot write. But over time, oops, sorry about that. Over time, they come together and you can see the triangle narrowing. Over time, from the age of 8 to 18, mechanics and original thought are starting to come together to serve each other. The more you read, the more you practice the mechanics of writing, the more you can borrow those into transcribing your own ideas and thoughts. Oops, I keep doing that, sorry. And by 18, your child will have writing proficiency. They will be proficient enough to leave home, to go to the writing lab, to get their roommate to read the final draft of their paper they're turning in on Tuesday, right? So that is our goal, to bring the mechanics of writing together with original thought so that eventually they'll have writing proficiency. You fill in the gap. The parental or adult involvement with a child bridges the gap between original thought and the mechanics. So at the very beginning of the writing life, you're going to be jotting down everything your kid says because they can't read or handwrite yet. But as they get older, you're going to introduce writing projects that are developmentally scaled to where your child is on this triangle. And we've got all of those stages of growth. I'll be talking about those in the book reveals over the next 2 days. But for today, just know this. Our goal is to give you the skills you need to develop your writer so that their original thoughts and their mechanics can come together to produce writing assignments that are developmentally scaled for who they are. So to grow a writer means that you need a strategy and then implementation tactics. And the very first strategy is to separate the mechanics from original thought at first. So what does that mean? What it means is this. You're going to teach the mechanics using someone else's writing. We suggest using copywork and dictation. You'll use a novel, take a passage, teach your child how to copy it, and eventually write it down while listening to you speak. For their original writing, you're just going to jot down their words on their behalf so that they don't have the additional burden of thinking about spelling and punctuation. Guess what? That counts as writing because that's exactly what it is. You're going to learn to provide kind, considerate feedback that supports that development. You're going to learn how to talk about that writing with your child so that you don't alienate them and you don't treat them as deficient when they're still learning. Does that mean they never edit their own work? No, that isn't what it means. But we actually have a strategy that makes it painless. And it's a journey that happens over time. It's not something that you do to every paper and you correct every problem. And you do that before you even manage to understand the meaning of the paper. We've got strategies, we're getting there. Another strategy, to offer writing projects or writing assignments that are based on your child's current skills. So we're not going to ask a third grader to write an essay. That's absurd. A third grader can do a lap book. They can make lists. They can put captions on a poster. They can do short narratives of what they're learning about. The formats should match a child's abilities. So as your child gets older, those formats get a little richer and deeper and a little more research-based. But we save the essay for high school because that's when the brain is developed enough to actually write an essay. To separate the mechanics from original thought first, we are going to use someone else's writing for those mechanics. You're going to read quality literature and examine it. Tomorrow and on Thursday, we're going to have this big bonanza book reveal where we announce all the books we're reading next year. And then we're going to teach you through our program how to examine that literature and grow those skills in your children's writing without causing them the pain that they feel when you edit their own. And I'm going to ask the hosts, our staff members, to put links to those two webinars, the one for tomorrow, which is for 5 through, I believe it's 10-year-olds, and then the next day is 11 through 18. So sign up for those if you want to hear us announce. It's a big party. I throw confetti, I play a kazoo, it's super fun. The next implementation strategy is to create experiences that convey the power of writing to kids. And this is where Brave Writer excels. We're going to look at what those are next, but our strategies are embodied. These are not just get a pen and write on a page. Kids are going to be standing up. They're going to be drawing. They'll be examining with their hands because writing comes from a whole person, not just the language center of the mind. And finally, you're going to assess their growth, not their performance. How about that? Wouldn't that be different if school could actually measure kids based on how they're growing, not on how they perform according to a standard? So what we do in Growing Brave Writers, the product we're about to discuss, is we are going to identify the successful implementation of feedback, the way that your child executed these activities that lead to growth and development, not that just perform, check, I'm done, because that's useless to everyone. All right, so let's go. So let's flip the script on all of these inadequate strategies where you're being told what to write, but not how to write, where you're being told to measure performance, not growth, where you're expecting a perfect unity between the mechanics of writing and the original thoughts of your children. Growing Brave Writers offers you coaching strategies, full body activities, and assessment tools that are designed for ease of use and maximum impact on your child. I promise you, this product is going to completely change everything you understand about how to be a writing coach to your child. Oh, and sidebar, parents tell me all the time that once they understood this, they applied these strategies to math, to science, to reading, to history. You know why? This is just a humane way to teach. It is a way to learn together. And once you get the knack for it here, it'll just automatically flood into the other parts of your your little homeschool or your educational model that you're using with your kids. So what's inside Growing Brave Writers? Here's the table of contents. And just to make it easy for those of you who've read The Writer's Jungle, I put new next to the chapters that have the most new activity in them, the most new material. But what I want you to know is the ones that don't say new are also rewritten. So you'll see some overlapping content, but those activities in general are very similar to ones you've already seen. They've been revised, but they're very similar. But in chapter 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, and 11, brand new material throughout. So chapter 1 is where we start with the natural stages of growth in writing. And I invite all of you to read that chapter before you even begin, because what you're going to discover is that grades and scope and sequence is inadequate to help you understand your child. Think about, for instance, all the times you're reading like what to expect when you're expecting. Would it have helped you if it just said the, baby is X size? That doesn't help you. What helps you is knowing, oh, the baby kicked. There's more movement in this month than last month. Now the baby is getting quiet. Those help you prepare for birth. Similarly, when we're looking at ages and stages, what we want to hear about our kids is moving the pencil. This is a time when they still struggle with spelling. Here's the time when they love writing and hate writing every other day. When you see those in your child and you hear me describe them, you're going to calm down. It's going to reassure you that your child is actually doing what they need to do to become a competent writer. Chapter 2 is all about the Brave Writer lifestyle. For those of you who've never heard of that, it just means creating a language-rich environment. We talk about movies, nature, poetry, art, how to incorporate, reading aloud, how to incorporate these extra kinds of studies to develop that rich and varied vocabulary that contributes to beautiful writing. So you'll definitely want to read chapter 2. It's designed in a way that allows you to print individual pages if you would like. So for those of you who are compulsive about keeping special notebooks, you could print the page on poetry, put it in your planning notebook, and then just check things off as you're doing them. You'll love it. Growing Brave Writers is a PDF file. It isn't an audiobook currently, but I will just say this, even my staff doesn't know it. It's something I would like to do, but it isn't currently. So it will happen at some point, but not right now. Chapter 3, Jot It Down is a brand new chapter. It's a strategy I've taught for years, and I've done it in workshops like this one and online and in the blog. But inside now, Growing Brave Writers, it's a full activity with all the information you're going to need to be able to count it as part of your writing curriculum. Chapter 4, The Precarious Art of Writing and Communication. We're going to talk about a game that is oral. This is a game your kids don't have to know even how to read to play, and it helps your kids discover what it means to write. Write is a kind of solo communication project, right? If I write a book, I can't know how you're reading it because I'm not in your living room. So we are teaching our kids how to account for the audience member they never get to meet in their writing during that chapter. Chapter 5 helps you take deep dives into keenly observing items so that your kids start to learn that there's more and varied vocabulary inside when they dig deeper. When they get to high school, we do a very similar exercise called keen observation of an idea. So we start with items and we move to the abstract in high school. Chapter 6 is all about copywork, dictation, and what to do about these mechanics while they're developing. Now, here's what's fun. Chapter 7 explores free writing. And I'm telling you, we took everything we've been learning from teaching these classes for 22 years. You are going to love it. It's got multiple free writing strategies. That activity goes on for pages and pages. It could easily take a semester to work through that chapter. Right? Isn't that amazing? You're going to love it. Free writing is the vehicle that transforms how your kids feel about writing. And I even give you a whole bunch of strategies for kids who've resisted it in the past to make sure you understand. Okay, chapter 8. I'm noticing something. Oh, yes, the products on our store. I'm just going to say this because I see it happening in the chat right now. The products in our store for the bundles that include Growing Brave Writers will be released tomorrow once we announce the books for each of those programs. So those are not available right now. You can buy Growing Brave Writers by itself, but if you want it in a bundle, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, that will be available starting June 1st. So hang in there. We're not trying to leave you hanging, but we have so much to announce and we have to do it a little bit at a time. So yes, not released till tomorrow, but it will be. We've been working like crazy to get those web pages ready for you. Whole new website of pages tomorrow. Oh, you're going to have fun. So chapter 7, free writing. Chapter 8. Okay, can we just like, just have a moment of joy? Oh, I'm going to get a kazoo. This deserves a kazooing moment. Whoops, I'm going back. Okay, did I just blow your eardrums out? The revision chapter is by far the most triumphant of the whole manual. Here's what we discovered. And we discovered this in the last 7 or 8 years. Revision terrifies children because parents are asking them to improve their writing. What I discovered through trial and error, mostly no error, lots of trial and success with teens and younger kids, is that we could actually play with revision and not improve the writing and help kids just get comfortable with making changes instead of taking it like it's killing their very souls. So low stakes revision has these unbelievable strategies in it, like turning your free write into a lie, rewriting your free write as though you're a surfer or a baby or Darth Vader. And I explained to you all the steps it takes to make that happen, but you're going to love it. These strategies completely transform how your kids feel about revision. And that means once they've experienced these other ways of playing with revision, when you get to high stakes revision, it doesn't feel like high stakes. It ends up just feeling like, oh, I get it. There are ways to play with this information that improve the communication. So this chapter, I'm telling you right now, it's worth the price of admission for the whole book. Chapter 9, polishing the final draft, efficient editing. 2 editing strategies. I hope you notice there's one called easy edits, 1 pair of eyes, and the second is called effective edits, 2 pairs of eyes. What do I mean? The easy edits are where you are training your child to take responsibility for the final draft. Doesn't mean they know everything to get it right, but they are going to do their very best. And I give you tools to help them be responsible and effective. But effective edits always require 2 pairs of eyes. And so we explain how to involve the other party so that both people are working together to have a good finished product. So that chapter is also brand new, really different, really effective. Chapter 10 is the same as it was in the Writer's Jungle, but it's one of my favorite moments in the whole program where we really look at why writing is valuable, and it has nothing to do with school. And then finally, chapter 11 has strategies for using Growing Brave Writers. People have been asking me for years, well, can I use the Writer's Jungle in traditional school settings or co-ops or with my kids after school or across the curriculum? Good news, you can. And now we've got strategies for you. So if you want to use it in a co-op, I explain how. If you want to use it with your kids who are in regular school, you can. If you want to use it for history, now you'll know how. And then finally, in the appendix, we have a section on overcoming writer's block and samples for all the activities. This program is perfect for kids between the ages of 8 and 18. And yes, you can start with any age child that you have, but you will just stop if they are not proficient enough yet in some of the writing skills until they develop them, and then you'll resume. For your older kids, you just keep going. So here's what the interior looks like. We have it divided, as I said, into coaching guide, activity, and assessment. So here is the new design for the coaching guide. Isn't it beautiful? We kept it to 2-color so that you wouldn't have to worry too much about printing, so that if you opted to go with black and white, you could, but there is a little bit of visual relief if you read it on a tablet. For the activities, this is the design. You can print these separately because they always start at the top of a page. So you might keep your coaching guide always on your tablet or read it on your phone or wherever you store your PDF file, but you could just print the activities and use those. We give you wide margins so you can make notes. And this is what they look like. And there's many more pages, but we're still laying it out. So I don't have them all for you yet. And then finally, there are pages for assessment. And I've broken out the 3 elements here. There's a checklist for self-esteem. You can see that in the number 1 category. And here are some of the things you can check off. Gathered all the tools. Good for you. Read the coaching guide material first. Hooray. Considered the variations before playing the game. Played the game as the describer or the illustrator. Tried a variation. Popped corn, shared about what we all learned. Laughed. Hugged someone spontaneously. Wrote a narrative sketch. These checklists are meant to be more than just tasks. I'm trying to remind you that the environment that you create with your children is valid and valued. It's part of the lesson. It's part of what makes this program effective. So the checklist is for your self-esteem. All of you checklisters have been asking me for this forever. Secondly, I also know that many of you are in charter schools, or you report to some kind of end of the year evaluator, or you like keeping your own records, whether it's for high school transcript or your own peace of mind. What we've discovered through years of working with you is that you can sketch a narrative, which means writing a little paragraph that will help you sort of encapsulate the skills your child got. But we also know that for some of you, that feels daunting because you don't have the vocabulary that looks like educational ease. So what we've done is we've created a Common Core and academic standards support section with a word bank like metaphor, simile, powerful description, precise detail, comparison, adjusting for audience, etc. And then I've written a sample narrative sketch, and you can literally use it word literal and just swap in your child's name, or you can use it as inspiration so that you yourself know how to craft one of these. And I think once you start reading them, they'll become really second nature for you. To me, this is the game changer of the whole program. I just think you're absolutely going to love it. Take a screenshot. I'm moving on. All right, here we go. Oops, voila. So here's the thing. Most programs tell students what to write. We show them how to write. Nearly a quarter of a century of breakthroughs in writing with tens of thousands of students from all over the world. Our program works. Growing Brave Writers is a 200-page PDF file. It's non-consumable and applies to students of all ages, even as young as 5, though those kids won't use the whole program until they're reading and writing. It supports a writer doing any kind of writing, including assignments in other programs or classes for homeschooled and traditionally schooled students. Pre-sales open tomorrow for bundles, but because you are here today, we are happy to allow you to have a pre-sale purchase today if you're buying it a la carte. Now, here's what I want you to know. It will be released on July 15th. This is a pre-order moment. So you will not have it in your inbox today if you purchase it. However, you will be in the first group who get it. And that's super fun. Let's keep going. Here's what you will not believe. We have these really good friends who own the Homeschool Printing Company. They are phenomenal. Some of you probably know them because you've probably already used their services, but we are partnering with them this year. They love us, we love them. We've decided with Homeschool Printing Company that you will get a special link that's just for Brave Writer products. And guess what? You get a fast pass. They will be printing your order within 48 hours and then sending it to you. So right now on the website, it says 2-week delay. That will not be true for Brave Writer. we get a fast pass. So all you're going to do is use that link. You're going to upload your receipt, select whichever products you want printed. They give you a spiral bound option or a 3-hole punch option. I think you can even pick black and white or color, but the goal is to give you the opportunity to have these inexpensive printables if you want it. USA only at this point, but it is an amazing partnership. And you can see examples in this photo. The link will be all over our website. I don't know if we're posting it now, Dawn, but if we are, go ahead. But this will also apply to our bundles that are available starting tomorrow for sale. So get ready for that. So if you want to pre-order a la carte, you can go to bravewriter.com/GBW to get Growing Brave Writers. It publishes on the 15th. It will be emailed to you on that day. If I have partnership writing already, does Growing Brave Writers include different activities? Completely different. They're not the same. Partnership writing are writing projects, those developmentally scaled writing activities. Growing Brave Writers is processes to help your kids learn how to write from scratch. They work together. They're awesome together. They do not compete with each other. If you prefer Growing Brave Writers in a bundle with one of our literature programs and one of our writing project programs, like Jot It Down, Partnership Writing, and what we're now calling Building Confidence. It used to be called Faltering Ownership. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. But if you want it in a bundle, those will make it available tomorrow. My kid won't free write. Will this work for us in other ways? 100% it will. Yep. And I also give you some strategies around free writing that may change that child's feelings about free writing, because I have run into this over the years and we have a way to do it. The parent teaches this course, but we do have online classes that teach this content. And those are our Brave Writer core classes, Brave Writer 101 and Brave Writer 102. If you have the Writer's Jungle and love it and already feel confident teaching writing, will this be worth it? It really is up to you. I would recommend downloading the sample, which is I think on the next page, or someone can give you the link. Oh yeah, we'll come back to that. Because I don't want you to feel like you're doubling up. That said, the revision section is pretty awesome. You could take Brave Writer 102, the online class, and get the content that way. Okay, I am moving on to the next slide. I know we're over time. Thank you for still being here. Tomorrow, we are announcing another brand new product called the Quill. It is in our family of products like the Dart, Arrow, Boomerang, and Slingshot. And it's for 5 to 7-year-olds. I will be announcing all of the themes for the Quill tomorrow during the book reveal, and it covers early literacy in reading, writing, and mathematics. Yes, there will be visuals for what the bundles will be, 1,000%. All of these will be delivered on the 15th, no matter when you purchase them. Okay. All right. I am going to, so here's the sample. Someone can put that link in the, John, you can put that link in the chat, and Diana can do it for Facebook. Download our sample of Growing Brave Writers if you'd like to have it so that you can thumb through it a little more. Yeah, there it is. And then if you want to order it, bravewriter.com/GBW. Okay. Yeah, Growing Brave Writers is awesome, people. So I'm going to stop the share and start answering questions. If you are done, feel free to go ahead and order it a la carte. But if you want to buy a bundle, that starts tomorrow at noon Eastern. And I will give you more detail during our book reveal. So sign up for that and come. Okay, we will talk about it. If you literally just purchased the Writer's Jungle, let me tell you this. I know some of you did because it was a great price. We priced it really low so that if you do want Growing Brave Writers, you won't feel bad about getting it. That's totally up to you. The Writer's Jungle has served families for 22 years. It's effective. This is just all the additional stuff that we knew you wanted. And there had to be a time when we ended the Writer's Jungle in order to launch something new. So that's the moment we're in. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Let's see. and I'm going to answer questions. So I will take the questions and we'll keep going. And then those of you who need to go, I understand. Yes, the Homeschool Printing Company link will be on the website. It'll be everywhere. You won't miss it. Great. Okay. Will this be valuable for just high schoolers? This program is valuable for kids 5 to 18. High schoolers who already know how to write will benefit more from Help for High School, which is our high school writing manual. But if you have reluctant or blocked high schoolers, then this is a perfect program for you to use. Looking for insights on how your materials will help dysgraphic and dyslexic learners. Yes, this program works so beautifully. For those of you who know Rita Sabasco and Rooted in Language, she follows all of our principles when she teaches her students to write. When we met, she was like, Julie, you're the missing piece for teaching these struggling writers, because the way we approach writing is so centered on the child's skill development, not on attaining certain standards. And intuitively, I just understand how to work with reluctant writers. And that's what a lot of these kids are because of their skill challenges. I had an ADHD son and a dysgraphic son, and I've used all these strategies with both of them, not to mention the countless families that have been helped by our program who have kids in those challenged areas. What is your take on kids writing on a computer versus paper? Computer is the future. Writing is good though. There is something about the physical act of writing that's good for the brain, but they've got to learn to keyboard. So we recommend both. My youngest daughter loves dictating stories to me, but she will go on and on for days. The projects often feel like they may never end. She also sometimes is annoyed if I read it back because the story just weaves all over. Any help for littles speaking their own stories? So what a great problem to have. So what I trust you to do is to have conversations about that. Hey, how much of this do you want me to jot down? Hey, I've done 5 minutes. You want to do 5 more? Hey, would you rather just record it and listen to yourself say those words? Just mix it up and admit some of your limits. Your kids deserve to know them. How do we sensitively correct writing in its raw form that's going outside of the family? Thank you, letters to friends and grandparents. A couple of ideas. One is, if your children really want to send it, but you know the person is not going to be gentle and kind, after they've put it in the envelope, add a note saying that you will absolutely scald their, their eyeballs if they mistreat your children. Like, just protect your child. Say, hey, my daughter wrote you a letter and she wants you to be happy you got it. And if you say anything about her spelling or punctuation, you'll have to deal with me. Just be protective. Love your kids. How do we do this process with a teen who struggles to get words on paper, but also struggles to come up with ideas in general? They love to read or do things with their hands. Yeah, use my program. I promise you, we address that. Teens have a huge and vibrant inner life. They don't know it's welcome. So follow the steps in Growing Brave Writers and you will discover breakthroughs. In my very first online writing class, I had a 16-year-old who hadn't written in years. And we started with jotting down. And the first thing he wrote was an orally narrated paragraph about a great catch he made in baseball. It changed his life. Within 2 years, he was writing essays and he went off to college. Today, he's 40, has 2 kids, works a fabulous job in a company. This can happen for all your kids. It needs a new approach. Stop using the approach that deadens your child. Is there any way to get Growing Brave Writers before July 15th? Nope. Sorry, it won't be finished. Is this covered in an online Brave Writer 101 class? Yes. Brave Writer 101 and 102 cover a lot of this material already. Not identically, but there is a lot of overlap. How does this program differ from IEW? The main difference is IEW is a structured what to write program. It is showing your kids what the end result should look like, deconstructing, and then giving them individual directions of how to implement those strategies. We start from writing voice. We start from not having a predetermined outcome or a series of applications of things to do to their prose. We're actually dealing with the raw writing of the individual writer. Totally up to you if you want to keep going in the writer's jungle or stop and use this. I just will say this, there is overlap for sure. Some of the activities are nearly identical. They're just edited and restructured to be more effective. But again, the writer's jungle has worked for 22 years for tens of thousands of families. So you're not going to go astray. But if you find yourself intrigued or drawn to some of this other stuff, yeah, Growing Brave Writers is great. That's why we wrote it. I bought the Growing Writers bundle last year, but didn't get to all the writing projects or darts. What would I need to buy this year? If you buy the new Growing Brave Writers by itself a la carte, you could use that and finish the darts and the other writing projects this year. That would be amazing. Don't overdo it. We're a less is more company. We always want you to not be overwhelmed, to actually implement and do the things that you've purchased. Okay, if my student, okay, we've already answered that one. This will not be available in book format from us, but the Homeschool Printing Company will print it for you in a book format. Best age range, 8 to 18. $79 is not the sale price, it's the normal price. How did the other Brave Writer products fit into this new rewrite? So the other Brave Writer products, I'm going to go over that in more detail tomorrow because we'll be talking about the bundles. But do you remember the writer's triangle? I'm going to open that back up for you. I want you to see it. I think that will help. Let me go grab that for you. All right. Can all of you see that? So the writing triangle, if you look at the base, you see original thought. That's where you would find Growing Brave Writers and Help for High School. Over on the left, mechanics and literature, that's where you find the quill, the dart, the arrow, the boomerang, and the slingshot. And then where you see the word writing projects, that would be Jot It Down, partnership writing, what we're now calling building confidence and Help for High School. So there are 3 products that are interlocking. And we've redesigned the website, and tomorrow at noon, all those pages will be up and you'll see very clearly how these fit together. So don't worry too much right now, but each one fills a certain role in developing these writing proficient writers. I hope that helps a little. Okay. All right. How else are we doing here with these questions? And you can also buy any of those products a la carte. Absolutely. Let's see. The Slingshot this year is the same books as last year. So the Slingshot is 5 books. And the reason for that is that we know a lot of families graduate after they use it, and we have a lot of new families coming into that level. And so those books are such high caliber ones for college. We wanted to give them another year. Yes. Brave Writer 101 and Brave Writer 102, which are our core online writing classes, cover a lot of the material in Growing Brave Writers, not identically and not all of it. They cover like the free writing, revision process, and the editing process. Good. Let's see. Do we offer a program that would come after Help for High School? Yep. It's our online class program. We have essay classes, MLA research paper, advanced composition, literary analysis. And the reason we do that is most parents, by the time their kids are in high school, want some outside feedback from instructors. So that's how we do upper high school level. Yes, I believe Growing Brave Writers and Help for High School is possible to purchase together, and it might even be possible right now. I'll have to see. Cindy might be able to answer that for us. Will there be a bundle of this plus the dart? Yes, 100%. Oh, I see. Or will I have to buy this dart with the writing projects together? Our bundles are 3 products, but we do have a way to customize bundles, and you'll see that tomorrow. Would you recommend for a child who locks up completely, even if you are transcribing? Oh, yes, I see what you mean. She went to public school and lost her imagination. Yes, you'll love the free writing chapter. There is a way to help kids who've really lost their imaginations, and we do it through a strategy called private writing. Growing Brave Writers, 8 to 18. If you have a 16-year-old who's homeschooled and struggling with writing, this is a great book, even if they're doing college classes. Can you talk a little more about how to implement this with a public school child? Yes, that's a great question, actually. So if your child is in public school, this is the kind of thing that offers you processes and tools to use to actually complete all those writing assignments they have to do in homework. You know how you sit down, you have to write a descriptive paragraph and your child's like, I don't know, I don't want to, it's too hard. And then you practically write it for them. Now you'll actually have processes you can do together to stir up that writing life and help them execute it. Okay. I am checking. There's a lot of these that are being repeats. Remind me again what I need besides the Growing Brave Writers PDF. That is the place to begin. And what you will want is potentially whichever bundle fits you. For 9 to 15, I'd probably recommend the partnership. I mean, the Emerging Writers bundle that has partnership writing in it. Darts will be revealed tomorrow. Okay, let's see here. There are no discounts available. That said, I will tell you this. One of the things about Brave Writer that's unique is our products last more than 1 year, and they absolutely last for more than one child. They are not consumable. So you could buy a bundle that's $200 and it could cover all 4 of your kids for more than a year. That's really economical. I've been around the interwebs and I know what it's like to buy workbooks for every level, for every subject, for every student. That's not how Brave Writer works. Non-consumable, don't even have to print it. Looks pretty good on a tablet, let me tell you. And you will be able to use it for multiple kids. Also, for these processes and even the writing projects, change the topic, experience it again, because these are flexible. It'd be like saying, I learned the essay, okay, I never have to write another one. Well, actually, no, you learn the essay, now you write lots of them, all different topics. The same is true for lap books. The same is true for free writing. The same is true for doing the keen observation activity. So I consider Brave Writer a steal. And we put an enormous amount of pedagogical research into what we do. This is not just, Julie was at home and decided to become a social media influencer. I've been in the field of writing my entire life, and particularly as a professional for the last 40 years. And the team I've assembled, they are experts. We spend an enormous amount of time actually researching. So you'll know that this is valuable and it applies to multiple kids and it can easily last more than a year. How does this compare with Writing with Ease? So Writing with Ease, I love Susan Wise Bauer. I always think that her program is wonderful. It's just a different structure. I really come from writing voice and flexibility and relationship. I'm not as focused on workbook strategies. So if your kids love workbooks, that sounds great. That's not our strategy. We use a different methodology. For middle school, you want Growing Brave Writers. If I were to try to focus solely on this content, is there a rough time frame for what it might take? Yes, it could take you the entire school year, but it'll probably take you somewhere between 2/3 of a year, a semester and 2/3 of a year if you just went like boom, boom, boom and did it all once. But I always hope you'll do the activities and the processes a lot more than once. Price will not increase. Yeah, I think Brave Writer products work great in alternative learning settings because they are so focused on the individual student. And if you want them to keep writing over the summer, we have a free writing section on our blog, Friday Free Writes, and those are prompts they can do every week, and they're just magical and whimsical and fun. You can also download our Writing Blitz, 7-day Writing Blitz, which is on the homepage of Brave Writer, bravewriter.com, 7 days of writing fun. It's called the 7-day Writing Blitz. Okay, you want to see the implementation strategy slide? I can do that, and then I'm going to get off because we've lost most of our people and my voice is tired and I have to do this again tomorrow. All right, here's the implementation slide. Go ahead and let's see if we can get it all up here. Go ahead and take a screenshot. Everybody got it? Okay, I hope so. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for being here. Super fun. This was amazing. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. And if you have more questions, you can write to us, help@bravewriter.com. And otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow. Bye. Thanks, everybody.